Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Crestani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I am joined by the lovely Dr. Evette Rose, and I'm so excited to interview her today. She is an author of 21 books, a holistic counselor, a speaker, and she has worked with over 7,000 clients, uncovering one undeniable truth: that unresolved emotions profoundly impact our health, mental well-being, and physical pain. And I feel like I have to give a special mention because I have had Dr. Evette Rose's book since the start of my little healing intuitive journey. And it has changed my perspective on any ailment that our body whispers to us. So, welcome to the show, Evette.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I am thrilled to be here with you today. And thank you for that wonderful introduction.
You're so welcome. And, I guess my first question is, if anyone hasn't seen this book, this is how thick it is.
Oh,
And you can look up any ailment in there and it will tell you the underlying emotional cause is why that's showing up in your body. So my question that has been in my mind is, how did this even come about? Like, how did all this information come together, and how did it be birthed into this beautiful book?
that's such a great question. I never wanted to become an author. I mean, it's not like I didn't want to become it. Like, I just never thought of it. I was just happy, being a coach and helping people with their journeys. And really how my journey started was just showing people what I did to get my life back on track. And it just seemed to really support a lot of people that resonated with it. And so as I traveled across the world teaching and speaking, I started just noticing how different people, regardless of where they are in the world, their belief systems, their values, their diet, their culture, it just didn't matter, all shared in common very similar trauma triggers and how they dealt with it afterwards when they shared similar ailments. And I thought, isn't and because I started with this first, and I'm like, I just worked on a client that had arthritis in their arm in Canada, and now I have a client that has arthritis in their left arm in Australia, and I'm like, wait, why do these people have the same stuff? And I'm going back to the other person's notes, and I'm like, same patterns. And I'm back at this one's note, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe it's a coincidence. And the more people I started to work with, the more I started to realize that this is not a coincidence. This is really how people are experiencing certain traumas and how certain specific emotions can exacerbate ailments and often even cause it, which we know is called psychosomatic ailments. And I thought, this is incredible. What made it even more fascinating is that as I documented this data, I added it in a manual to give out to my students in class. Here's something that some fun reference that can help you. And someone once just said, I was teaching actually in LA, and someone in LA just looked at the manual and they go like, Evette, you have to publish a book. This has to be a book. And I'm like, come on, me publish a book, an author? Come on. No, it wasn't even on my radar. Forget it. It was not even on my radar. And I thought, it's actually quite a good idea. And I thought, all right, let's do this. Let's put it in a book. And so I talked to a few publishers, and they would change some things and this, that. And I'm like, wait. That message is supposed to say this with this ailment. Why did you just change the meaning of it? No, we just changed the word. And I said, no, you can't change the word. This is the word that came out of X amount of people's mouths who have this issue. You can't change the word. Oh, but, for editing, no, we have the rights. And I'm like, yeah, no. So I self-published.
Yeah.
I self-published to hold the message. And I'm thankful that I did, because that book went viral. It's sold now in 80 countries. It just took a life force of its own. It's in hospitals, it's in universities. I don't know where else it just ended up in all these different places all by itself. And I was thrilled because I realized that what I documented must resonate with more people. So I continue to add to the book to the point where the spine cannot take anymore. But It's now at 702 medical ailments. And this is just how the book started, because I asked the question. I was sitting there and I'm thinking, yeah, I don't really want to reinvent the wheel. I mean, Louise Hay did an amazing job with her work, and it's already been done. And then I asked the question, what is not in the book? What can I focus on that has not been already said? And that's where this whole avenue just burst open. And I started to look at it also from a completely different perspective that continued to support my message in writing this book. And so I just continued writing books after that. And people go like, oh, wow, 21 books. I'm like, yeah, that's actually 21 breakdowns, because that's exactly what these books are. Real life events from my journey that I learned from, right?
Mm-hmm.
I learned lessons and listened to clients and students and integrated this. It's been a journey. I never in my life wanted to become an author. I was actually studying in my early 20s, get this, to become a crime scene investigator and a lawyer. Can you imagine the contrast?
Well, in saying that, this is like in being a crime scene investigator, because you're
Of
trying to
emotions.
figure out exactly. And you're trying to figure out the underlying things that are causing these things to show up in your body. So it's not
That's
that
so
far of a
true.
jump.
Just a few different angles, yes.
But I feel that it's so amazing how that came together. And I love that you brought up Louise Hay's, because people keep going to me, oh, it's like Louise Hay's book. And I'm like, who's that? Because
Wow.
that wasn't in my radar. And it was, then they went, but this book's better. And that's what they said. It just takes it to that next level, and
It's
to have
different.
exactly. Yeah. And I was mentioning just before we started recording, I have the children's version of this book too. And I was saying,
oh yes.
So for anyone listening who hasn't seen the children's version, if you're a parent and you want to truly reflect on why your children are how they
It's
are,
this one.
yes.
Yeah, same size. It's this one. Yeah.
Yes. And if you want to start some reflections on yourself as a parent and do some healing for you to help your children, that book is incredibly powerful. But you have to be ready to face your shadows, and you have to be ready to go deeper and not blame everything else, other than accepting, okay, maybe that did come from me or my partner or husband. Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. So let's just set the record straight, because I'm a parent of two girls. So I'm a mummy as well. I have a husband who's a dad as well. And my children have also had their ailments and challenges and all of that, right? So this is not something that I wrote in the book very lightly. First of all, what happens when a child has a reaction? There's a predisposition that they are already very sensitive to. It's inherited, they're born with it. Now, what happens is sometimes between a mother and a father, dynamics can come up. There's environmental dynamics. Several factors can come together that can create a certain stress factor that can set off this predisposed sensitivity in the child. Hence why some parents might have these little nitpick arguments. You know, these nitpick arguments, you don't really fight, but you just nitpick at each other. Now, the arguments in itself is not really a big deal, but the tension, the unspoken words, the energy. Children are sponges. They are hypersensitive to the environment because they're still learning. So they're attuned to be more sensitive to what we might appreciate and realize or even remember from our own childhood. And just that unspoken tension can deeply impact them. I have seen, and my husband and I, we've talked about this, sometimes when he gets highly stressed, suddenly the oldest daughter will start having flu and she's sick, and everyone else in her class is perfectly fine. And we're thinking, where is this coming from? Where were you? Why are we all sick right now? And then we check in with each other. I'm like, and I said to him, listen, you had this conflict at work, and there was all this stress, and you were highly stressed. And sometimes he doesn't realize that. This child can feel that. And same with me when I get very stressed. Sometimes there was something that I went through in my life, and there was a in my career, and I couldn't say everything that I really wanted to or needed to, and I was so frustrated. And sometimes when I work with clients, I can't always say everything that I want to say to get them on their path, because there's things that they just have to go through, and So there's all this suppression, and it was sitting right here in my throat. And I was aware of it. I could feel the tension in my throat. I could feel the stress in my body. And that next day, she's there coughing, and she's having her throat is hurt, and she can not speak properly. And I'm thinking, isn't that interesting? She went to bed perfectly fine. And then I would address the stress in me, and I will see her get better.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Another powerful example that I will never forget is a boy had asthma. He was born with asthma, or at least so they thought. It actually happened to have developed when he was a baby. And what happened was there was a lot of tension between the mother and the father. And the father being a little bit more the aggressor, not in a violent way, but just the rah rah rah, the grumpy one, the short tempered one, and having a very stern, very cutting voice. And so when we addressed that, the child having this underlying fear of the father, which no one realized, somehow, in some miraculous way, there was no further signs of asthma when he started to calm down. Now that's interesting. I don't know. So these are just powerful examples of how we're just living our life unintentionally, having an impact, because there are prior predispositions that a child is born with, that they have certain sensitivities, just like you did, just like I did. No one is going to get to escape that. It's just part of our DNA lineage evolution, and that's it. No one, absolutely no one, is at fault. What that book can help you with is to show you, here is how you can support your child. If you don't know how to help them directly, work on yourself. And let's see, what if there's a possibility that it could positively support your child? Now tell me, which parent will not want to help their child, right? We all want the best for our children. And if it means that I need to look at something in me that could be pushing a button on a predisposition sensitivity this child has unintentionally, well, I'm going to do that, right? So it's all about learning. How can we support one another, live together, and heal together? Which for me, I think it's a very beautiful cycle.
Yeah, and I feel it's so important. What you brought up is that the children are so sensitive. They're emotional sponges.
Yes.
And for years working with children myself, this is what I would always teach students.
Wow.
So my background's as a speech language pathologist, right? So you can imagine what came through my door.
Wow.
But at the same time, like for years I would say to the parents, like what's going on outside of them that all of a sudden they're stuttering, or all of a sudden, they've got these issues writing. And I was like, there's something more going on. Did you find something triggered it? Or, and when you start to unpack that, it can be really reflective on parents. But I would always say to them, especially you get kids coming with massive anxiety, and then the parents have massive anxiety, and it's like, okay, they're actually feeding off your anxiety. You're making them anxious because you're worrying about these things and then they're like, but they're so calm with you. I'm like, because I'm not feeding off them. I'm not feeding the anxiety. They can just try, but I'm not putting these, fear of failure and things like that in place. And as a mum myself, seeing that play out for my son. So my son, if he got told to do something by the teacher and he didn't agree with it, he would get immediately sick, because it was almost this war in him that he felt it wasn't right, but he wanted to respect authority. And then,
God bless.
and,
Yeah.
and we saw the pattern really quickly, and because he very rarely falls ill. And we said, what happened at school today? And then he would tell us, and we were very lucky because we would then contact his teacher and be like, hey, you just moved him in the room, but you put him next to this boy that is really disruptive, and he can't learn sitting next to him, but he feels like he can't tell you that because he's respecting your decision to move. I'll move him back. Thank you. So
that's beautiful.
But
look at
and as soon as that happened, he was better within a day. But it, like you said, it can come on that quickly, and you just have to start asking those deeper questions, like, all right, what is going on the outside? Because the outside
environment
world is reflecting the inside world, right? Exactly.
God bless. That's a really great example, but it just shows you the sensitivity of children, because
Mm,
who is the most around them? It's their environment. Well, the environment can be school, it can be, after school activities, friends and parents, friends, family, all of this. So all these patterns, it's really important. And what I love what you did was you were looking for a pattern, which is exactly what the whole point is. Look for the pattern.
yeah, exactly. And I also love how, in the books that you've written and in the two that I have, I know you've done 21, but I don't have all of them yet. It might evolve.
So we can maybe send it to you as a gift.
I won't say no. But at the same time, I love that you have the reflection questions as well, because so often you can
Mm,
read that what's happening emotionally. And I always say to people, feel what resonates. I don't know, this is how I teach people to use it, right? Feel which one
that's
feels right.
correct.
Great. Feel
Yes.
which one feels right for you.
Yes.
And that's the one that's the trigger. Because if you go, oh, that's me, then you go, okay, well, that's where I have to go deeper on. And then you've got this beautiful lot of questions of like to get deeper and, how
Yeah.
whatever way you want to think about it or write about it or, and then you can unpack it that way. But sometimes I've found too, and I don't know if you found this as well, just acknowledging the cause of it is enough to shift what's happening in the body.
It's a lot. For a lot of people, when they're so ready, they do shift. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do shift. I sometimes get emails from people saying, "Oh my God, I absolutely hated you for one day. And then it just slowly integrated it. And then I'm okay again. And then now I love your book again." So, yes,
And it's,
I get a lot of love hate emails.
what I love too, because I so believe in like, signs from the universe and things, where you open the book and it opens to almost exactly what you need. Or it's not even necessarily the ailment you're looking for, but the pattern of what's happening. You're like, oh,
Yes.
yes, that's what's going on
There.
for me right now. And the amount of times that it's happened, it's not coincidental. It happens quite often. Oh,
There you are. I'm so sorry. What happened?
so the question I was going to ask you, you've got all these beautiful books, you've got all these ailments, talking about emotions, but how can people release the trauma? They can read the questions and things, but what is some things and tips that you have for them?
So this is a really great question. So specifically for people who would love to dive deeper into it, there's actually several options. So I have also so in the book, what you'll see, which you don't need the book to do that, but you can go to guidedhealingsession.com, and there's actually a healing pre-recorded video, like a half an hour session where I talk you through a process to help you to understand what's going on, what could be potential root triggers, and then the healing exercise, actually we work through it. So here we really started working through that, and it includes breath work, really beautiful tools. But for me, honestly, awareness of a problem is a problem half solved. And so many people spin their wheels trying to heal something, and then they go back to it, and it's again and again and again. And what I find is the best gift that you can give yourself to really truly heal is to learn to befriend your emotions, because your emotions is telling you what is going right and what is not going right in your life. And if things were always going well, I don't think we would have evolved to the point where we have as a species and as a world, right? That stress factor always gives us that point of where things perhaps need to be improved, where something needs to be done. But sometimes there is that slight misinterpretation of what could be the challenge, and then we end up applying the wrong solution. And then we feel like we're not getting to where it is that we want to be because we're negative bias. We don't also, so which means we can actually end up subconsciously continue to focus on what the problem is. We don't understand that sometimes a negative experience is actually just showing you what needs to shift so we can get back to being happy. So we start to build these little coping mechanisms and little strategies around these challenges, giving us the relief that we're looking for, but it's actually creating an illusion that creates more secondary pain points that we probably would have to go and address at some point, because they themselves are going to cause problems, because we create these short solutions with the intention to live in a place of subconscious avoidance. And when we live in that place of avoidance, we're not free. You're living in a state of entrapment, thinking that you're free because you feel the relief of the challenge.
Yeah.
But you created this relief based on what foundation? Needing to get away. and not applying the proper solution to actually put it to rest so that you can experience true freedom. There's a lot of people that want freedom, but what do? We fight for it. Now, it's hard to feel free when you're fighting the whole time, right?
100%.
Just as it's hard to be in a state of healing when you are in a state of fight and flight. The body's not prioritizing a solution or happiness. It's prioritizing the threat that you're energizing. And this threat that we subconsciously use for this anger or this fight and flight or the cortisol to come up so that we can move into that whatever secondary coping strategy it is that we have to get away from the problem. But we're just digging ourselves deeper into that. So it really can become this self-fulfilling prophecy. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is to bring a lot of emphasis on the power of awareness of your emotions. I acknowledge it can sometimes feel really uncomfortable, but it's there for a reason. And when we understand that reason, we can apply the best tools to help us to deal with why that is there. Because the body is designed for you to live your best life. It's not designed to hold on to all this trauma, all this stress. It can handle it, but it's not designed to carry it for the rest of your life. Everything in life has a threshold. You see it in nature, and that includes us and our capacity to deal with negativity, to deal with unresolved wounds. We have such an ego. I call it the shame ego. It's not like the ego of, oh, I'm better than someone else. This is the ego because different parts of us have different points and levels of ego, right? It's not just this one big ego, but it also has these little subdivisions. And one of the biggest pain points that I see when I work with clients as well is the ego of shame. And is that part of us that just doesn't feel good enough, doesn't feel worthy? Well, it's kind of hard to wanting to claim happiness if you don't feel worthy deep down in your heart. And it's because we feel unworthy that we often settle for less in life. And then we try to work our way out of that, having settled for less, feeling the pain point of having settled for less, and then wanting to get out more. But we're not a frequency match to align with what it is that we want because we feel so shameful and so unworthy. And this is programming that doesn't just come from our childhood. This is deeply engraved throughout our generations, deeply engraved. It's not just breaking here and now pattern. This is a generational pattern. And I see this so strongly rooted, exactly the same pattern as an example, the fight and flight that we get from our ancestors. You see a lion on the floor, you jump and you think it's made, you have no idea what you actually saw. But the body registered, well, what if it's a snake? So we have this instinctive reaction. These reactions were given to us from our ancestors. Now, shame, there are many others as well, but shame is another big inherited intergenerational trauma that I see again and again and again coming up. And it's boiling down to that feeling so unworthy. So number one, you will not properly heal if you don't feel worthy of the healing that you're seeking. Forget it. You will not heal if you have a fear of change, because change is the gateway to creating that lasting change. We all can create change like that. Poof, no problem. Can you hold it? Now that's the other question. People who don't have a fear of change and who feel worthy of change, they hold those results and it flows and it becomes part of your lifestyle. So for anyone wanting to heal, wanting to get better, these 2 points are fundamental. I don't care what people want to achieve. My first point, what I look at is, well, we need to look at, do you feel worthy of having that? What is your relationship with change? Let's talk about that. Because you can book sessions with me until you're blue in the face. And with anyone else, you might heal, but the issue might come back. Or you find yourself dealing with just yet another crisis with a different face. So that, for everyone listening, I hope that you really take that in. Because if people are really serious about creating real, and I mean solid, real change that has autonomy, this is it. 2 simple keys that can feel petrifying, but these are the 2 keys from what I have seen, having worked with so many people, that is fundamental. It's not negotiable. It's fundamental.
Yeah, I resonate with this so much because even I've written a book on spiritual ethics, and one of the ethical pillars is willingness to change. Because if you're not willing
There
to
you go.
change, then nothing will shift. And that's whether you're a practitioner, whether you're just a soul looking for a practitioner, it doesn't matter. If you're not willing to change, nothing will shift, because you have to have that willingness there, and you have to be, like you said, open to it and not be fearful of it. And also the worth, I fully understand what you're talking about, because that's what I did
I
last
also,
year.
yeah.
Yes, spent the year unpacking my worth story. I fully understand, but I
Wow.
also wanted to highlight too that you brought up, if you feel like you're always fighting for freedom, you're not getting freedom, because you're,
No.
like you said, you're constantly in that fight or flight. And I had this message channeled to me, because I was like, oh my goodness, like there's so many things I'm concerned about in this world, like the state of our food and the education and the sky and all the toxic, et cetera, et cetera. Like, how do we, like, I'm like, what do I do? There's all these things happening. And then I just had this message come through so clearly, and it was, don't run into the fire. I was like, what? It's like, let the fire burn. If the fire comes to you, then you've got the tools you need to address it, but don't
Yeah.
run into the fire. And I was like, just take myself out of the stressful situation. Exactly what you
Yeah.
said. Don't keep, and like you said, if you keep fighting for it, it's not really freedom that you're creating. You're creating something that
Yeah.
you have to constantly defend. So what's the point?
Exactly. And you're going to get addicted to that fighting, because you start to achieve success through fighting. You start to achieve your boundaries through fighting. You start to feel that you're creating some kind of change in your life through fighting. Let me tell you, after a while, you're going to sit there and I'm going to ask you, who are you if you're not fighting? Do you know how many people have a breakdown? They can't imagine their life without fighting. So this is the coping strategy that I was talking about, right? That we now need to address as well, on top of not feeling worthy. It becomes this really vicious cycle.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then it's, then you have to then dissociate yourself with that identity that you've now created, that, oh yeah, I'm the person that fights for freedom, and I'm the person that fights for all these things. And I know that because I've been through that, and I've had to
Me
put,
too.
yeah, and you have to put down, you're like, actually no, this isn't my fight anymore. Like, why did I even say yes in the first place, and why did I
Yeah.
energetically commit myself to this? Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. See, this is what happens, and I love my podcast, because I meet kindred souls. Because we're just
Yeah.
there going, yes.
We all had our breakdowns. I had so many of them. I can actually count them.
And then you keep counting, because you, like you said, every book that you put out.
Yeah. Yeah. My relationship with fight was actually in my book, The Abundance Mindset. That's where I talked a lot about my relationship with fighting for what I want, fighting what I needed, because that's where I had my stress-induced heart attack, is because of that fight response, just fight, fight, fight. And my body said, I can't do this. You're working towards living your best life. We can't live our best life if we're fighting the whole time. I mean, I couldn't take in everything that I've achieved. I couldn't take in the beauty, the beautiful house, the assets, the friends. I couldn't take any of it in. It's like it was this gaze, like I was this fish in a bowl, and everything was just happening outside of me. Because that fight and flight response, it locks you into such a dissociative state that you can't feel all the beauty that is going on around you, because you can only stay in that fight response for so long. And what happens, that you collapse and you freeze, and that's where we get stuck in that dissociative state.
Yep. And it comes in many forms, like you said, a stress-induced heart attack, but it can be burnout, panic attacks, anxiety, chronic
Isolation.
fatigue.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
of it.
all the
All of
fun
it.
things, all the things that we can tick off. Yes, we've been through that. Yeah. And as we start to finish our time together, Dr. Evette, I asked the guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
For me, it would be for everyone to have healed emotional intelligence, fully healed emotional intelligence. I honestly feel this would be the gateway to healed relationships, politics, world harmony, and peace. To act and think for yourself, how would I feel if I was the other person, right? Just even that simple step. I mean, emotional intelligence encapsulates more than that. But I think if there were more emotional intelligence, we would look at a completely different world. And that's what I would love to see of. If there could be a wand, that would be it.
And then how interesting life would be, right? Like, oh my
I would be
goodness,
so happy.
I don't have to try and peel your mask off to have a conversation with you. You're just going to put it on the
Yeah.
table. This is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Oh, true, right?
I feel to ask, because I just keep hearing it in my head, what are you working on at the moment? What are we expecting next from you?
So I'm working on another fun research project that I am hoping to see really good results with, to bring more clarity and understanding for emotions and how they impact our health. So there's more that I'm diving with my nose into to see what I can unravel in this. It feels a bit like a complex world, but it's starting to become more uncomplicated as I progress. So I really look forward to see what the end result's going to be, which I don't have quite yet, but it's that peeling the layers off at the moment. So this is what I'm doing.
I feel like I just got that you're creating a map to navigate the emotional world that we live in. Yeah.
A lot more than that, but that's going to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I'm excited.
Exciting. Very exciting. And
Yes.
if people want to find you, Dr. Evette, or look up your books or go buy them, where can they go check it all out?
Absolutely. So you guys, you can find it on Amazon.com, or you can find it just on my website at metaphysicalanatomy.com.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure to put all those details in the show notes so everyone can come and find you. And if you haven't got this already and you're in a healer or you're curious about healing, please go buy this book at least.
Oh, bless it. And don't
Because
send me hate mail. You'll love it. You'll love it. Just breathe through it.
exactly. And thank you, Dr. Evette, for being on the show. It's been such an honor.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for spending your time with me.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.